Good morning, everyone. It's awesome to see you all here. Quick little announcement. We're going to be doing the communion at the end. I've messed up everyone's plans today. Oaks are running around and not knowing what to do. But we're going to do communion at the end. So if you came hungry, you have to wait another 20, 30 minutes. Okay, it's for communion. Did you guys all notice the new design in the foyer? Pretty cool, eh? I was enjoying all the words that came through during worship. And we're going to be discussing the theme of light. And Ray didn't know that when he came up to speak. And then I also just giggled in my head about a person with a name called Ray came and spoke on the light. I thought that was pretty cool. But everyone, this is not the title of my preach. This is just an instruction. Okay. I need you guys to look ahead. Kids, thanks for hanging around. I'm going to have you for 4 minutes. I want to start with a kid's story. It's awesome to have the kids with us every single time. I know we hang around for worship and then you guys go, but I want to just tell you guys a little bit of story. So I need you guys to take your hands and cover your eyes to the side like a horse with blinkers on. Can you all do that? Both sides, please. No looking to the sides, because I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want to ask you guys, do you know what verse is written on the left-hand side of the church? Without peeking, no one looking to the left. Can someone please speak out if they know what verse is written? What is the verse written on the side of the wall? It's called, okay, no one's super confident here. I think some guys have peeked a bit, that's fine. Okay, open your eyes. Kids, look to the left here. It says, shine. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. So I'm going to tell you guys a story about that. Awesome little foyer with lights in. I came in, I saw some lights on top of there for the first time, I think. Are those new? They are new? So everyone's on the same theme here. It's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a bit of a kid's story here. Let's go to the first slide here. Is that working? Okay. That's one of my friends called Lumi. Okay, she's a firefly. And Lumi lives deep in the woods, and she loves to shine. She actually loves to zoom around the woods and zigzag between the leaves and the branches like a flying sparkler, lighting up the dark forest paths so that her friends can find their way home. Very helpful firefly. All the fireflies shone beautifully, but none shone brighter than the Creator. And that's a picture of the Creator. The Creator was the source of the light for Lumi. Lumi knew the Creator knew Lumi, and the light that Creator gave off was actually what empowered Lumi and her friends to shine. But one day, there was a strange thing occurred one evening. A strange cloud started to appear. It was called the mess. It started off small, but slowly grew bigger and bigger. But it was a special cloud. It wasn't made of rain or thunder. It was made of all the wrong things that the fireflies had ever done. Every time they were unkind, selfish, or they hid their lights instead of helping others, the crowd grew bigger. Eventually, they couldn't even see the Creator, and their lights started to fade. But then, the Creator sent His own Son, and that's His name. His name is actually what our church is named after. That is Immanuel. The Creator sent His own Son to the fireflies. His name was Immanuel. He told Lumi, I can chase away the darkness, but I have to let it cover me instead of you. Won't that hurt you? Asked Lumi. Yes, replied Immanuel, but I love you more than you can imagine. The mess wrapped around Immanuel like a dark, heavy blanket. His bright light dimmed, then flickered, then went out. Everything was dark. Is this the end? Cried Lumi. For 3 days, the fireflies huddled together. Their lights started to fade until they were in utter darkness. Suddenly, a burst of brilliant light exploded across the sky. Immanuel was alive and shining brighter than ever before. Lumi's glow flashed back to life, and her friends, Sparky and then Escom, until the whole forest was illuminated by fireflies. From that night on, Lumi and her friends glowed with joy. They knew their light wasn't their own. It was a gift from Immanuel, who loved them enough to take away their mess. The end. Thanks for the story. Kids and the ministry team, you guys can go. It was a blessing having you. And parents, hope you guys can have a little discussion with the kids after. These guys do such an amazing job, such a blessing, and it's just awesome to be able to share some stuff with the kids. Friends, on the theme of light, I wanted to share a process that I've been thinking about for a while. And it's the process of discipleship. I think we've had discipleship on the edge, we've had discipleship in the middle, we've had discipleship on top, we've had discipleship underneath. We have all sorts of kinds of discipleships over the last couple of months. But I want to talk about being a disciple, like the noun of the word, like actually being a disciple. In some of my conversations with friends, clients, that kind of stuff, sometimes religion comes up. And I've felt it to be quite a useful phrase to just talk about being a disciple of Jesus. They might say, like, what religion are you? I'm just a disciple of Jesus. It really helps to illuminate what we're actually discussing here. Okay? And Jesus has a process by which he takes us on. And I just wanted to discuss that, or just help me think aloud with you guys about that process. Like, what is a disciple? What is it? We talk about discipleship, but I want to talk about the noun. If there's any people here, I would like some crowd participation, please. Can you think of some hallmarks of a disciple? What are some of the hallmarks of a disciple? Imitator, I like that. Follower, I like that. Anyone else? Is that it? So now we understand about being a disciple? Rowan, servant, awesome. Anything else? Love it. All good, all good. Some of the things that I wrote down, these are people, okay, who forgive. These are people who forgive. If we are motoring through life, being a disciple and not being a vessel of forgiveness around us, we're not doing a very good job of shining. Okay, they forgive. They are salt and light. They are hospitable. This time of year, it's a great time to be hospitable. But what about April? What about July? These are all times where you are allowed to be hospitable in other months besides December. They are people who have a public witness. Okay? Imitation and obedience. They have an utter dependence on God. They are mission orientated. They are servant hearted, and they have a lifelong allegiance to Jesus. Am I a disciple of Jesus? Are you a disciple of Jesus? The interesting thing when I read through the Gospels is that Jesus defines and redefines what it means to be a disciple throughout the whole Gospel. I found that quite fascinating. He invites us to come and see, and he takes us on a journey until we come and die, which doesn't sound that great, if I'm honest. I wouldn't lead with that if I was doing the marketing. Okay, I wouldn't lead with come and die. But have you ever done anything that started out great, but didn't end that well? For some of us, it might be a relationship, a job, or something like that. For me, it was my first driver's license test. I turned 18 in just a few years back in July, and it was the start of the school holidays. So most of my friends, their birthday was a little bit later on in the year. So I planned my driver's license test at the start of the school holidays, thinking that I would be able to drive a vehicle for the whole holiday, just do it exactly what I wanted to do. So did the inspection, dominated that. Did the hill starts, I think, dominated that. Went on the roads in Winkelspruit, great city of Winkelspruit, and it was not that busy, so we were just cruising around. I'd done everything. We were about to jump on the highway, which took us back to the testing center. So once you're on the highway, you're basically there. The instructor said I must turn right, so to slip onto the highway. But there was no paint on the road. So it's one of those sections where, two lanes become one on the one side, and one lane becomes two. So I indicated, checked my blind spots, moved over to the right-hand side. Instructor is thinking this is the best thing ever. He's getting chauffeur driven. Everything's going well, until a car came around the corner, and the car was in my lane. I promise you, I don't even think the instructor even knew that I was in the wrong. But as the car came around, he was like, "Oh, you've crossed the solid white line." And I was like, "Oh, so that's a fail." So there was something that started off great, and if they'd painted the roads in Winkelspruit, I would have had a car for I would have been able to drive throughout the holidays. But there was no paint. I didn't see it, so I was liable. So that was something that I'd hoped would have great outcome. It started off great, but it ended fairly poor. And then I know my mom's probably going to watch the stream, so I'll say it in both services. The second story is, so this is now December of the same year. So now I've got the driver's license, okay, because I passed it second time. And then we went to watch a test match at Kingsmead, and we parked where Immanuel Church basically is. Now there's lots of those grey pillars. So I drive in there with my mates. We had a great afternoon or morning of watching cricket, and then as I reversed, straight back into a grey pillar that looked like the grey of the clouds or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't see it. So again, super grateful to have an awesome start in December. But the rest of December, and that's why I speak about forgiveness, to pay back the damage that had occurred on the boots of the vehicle, my mom was like, Garth, I need you to paint the whole house on the outside. So I painted the whole house in December holidays. I can remember that. No hard feelings, Mom. We spoke about forgiveness. It took me a few years to work through that. I have forgiven. I had such amazing friends. I remember once I was working on the one side of the house, which is in line with the driveway, and my friends rocked up, all with their beach gear. They were like ready to go to the beach. They were like, come to the beach. And I was like, I've got to paint the house. And at that stage, I'd taken Scotch tape, normal tape that you use for paper and stuff. I taped up all the joints of each finger because I had the biggest calluses ever. But you know what, Mom? That was a good lesson. I learned that there's repercussions to not looking your blind spot. So no hard feelings there. I got the money, and I think I got the money for doing the house. And my mom did pay me, which was cool. And then I just turned to my left and gave it to the mechanic dude who fixed it. So I was like the middleman for about 3 seconds while I had some cash. Okay. But his story, his invitation is not like that. He's not trying to trick us to come and die. Come and die is actually the end point. It's the whole point of why we have to come and see. The beauty of how Jesus does this is he invites us in the beginning. There's a very low barrier to entry. He's just like, come and see. What a cool, who doesn't like invitations? We all like invitations. It's a very low barrier, and there's basically no commitment. But Jesus slowly takes us on that long journey until we're into a place of submission, servant-hearted, laying down our lives where we come and die. And I was thinking like, well, what's in between that? Like it's quite a long process. I mean, how do I go from I'm interested, I've got curiosity, how do I go from coming and seeing all the way to come and dying? It sounds like I don't have enough light in me to get to that point. Okay? And Jesus takes us on this beautiful journey. I'm going to read from John 1, verse 39. There was basically 2 of John the Baptist disciples, and they heard him call Jesus the Lamb of God. They left John, and they followed Jesus, and he said to them, "What are you seeking?" And they answered, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" Jesus replied, "Come and see." Later on in that same chapter, Jesus called Philip to come and follow me. Jesus starts with an invitation. Are we inviting, and do we make people curious? Jesus he had something about him. He had some kind of light within him which drew people to him. He threw out invitations, and people just took up that invitation. So I want to say to us, me included, are we being invitational? Are we doing things in our life that makes people curious, who want to come near, to come and see what that light is all about? It's a great time of the year to do that. Then, the second thing that Jesus does, so first of all, he throws out the invitation. The second thing that Jesus does is he meets people's needs. Now, we aren't Jesus, but we can still try and meet people's needs. Come to me, all who labor, all who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. We spoke about that this morning. Ray spoke about that, Matthew 11, verse 28. If you are tired, he wants to meet your need. If you are thirsty, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. John 7, verse 37. So he's meeting people's need for rest. He's meeting people's need for that thirst, which is of eternal nature. And then he says, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. Those who come to me will be saved. He's meeting people's need. There's these people that Jesus was speaking to, they had the understanding, or at least the inkling, that there was something more to life. There was a salvation that they needed, and they realized that Jesus had the answer. So Jesus' invitation and then his provision by meeting their needs, it built up equity or trust with these people. So only once he had built up their trust, this takes a long time, people. Once he had built up their trust, then he turns up the heat a little bit. Come and deny yourself. Come and take up your cross. You can't be my disciples unless. He uses this phrase a few times. If you are my disciples, you will do this. If you are my disciples, you will do this. So there's an understanding, at least in Jesus' mind, that a disciple is not only someone who takes on the invitation, but they actually keep going, and they keep going, and he goes deeper and deeper and deeper. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. I don't think, even if I've thought about that for a while, I don't think we fully understand the gravity of those words. So just imagine you living in the same time of Jesus as a Jew. You are living under occupation, okay? And the occupiers keep law and order by murdering those who dare rise themselves up against Rome, and they do that on a cross. It's humiliating. It's the most agonizing death ever. And then Jesus is going from, come and see, come hang out with me. And a couple chapters later, he's like, come and take up your cross and follow me. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 38, he says, whoever does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. We kind of gloss over these words, and it's the whole holistic picture of Jesus that I'm interested in here. We know he's kind, we know he's loving, all those things. But he does turn up the heat here, straight out of his mouth. And I just want us to think about that for a little while, what it means to maybe take up our cross. It's not something that I think that I necessarily give much thought to. And it is Jesus' words. And that in itself is also an invitation. Okay. What I want to do now is just think of maybe 5 or 6 things that disciples actually do. Okay, so the first one, what disciples actually do is they abide in his word. Okay, and the point of these 6 things is not, or maybe it is. Let me just think this out loud for a second. The point of these points is not to say, whoa, geez, I can't do that. Maybe it is, because we need that light in us that comes from Jesus. But at the same time, he keeps on lifting up the bar, and it's so attainable if we just keep our eyes on him. So I'll read you that verse that's on the screen right now. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John chapter 8. We must abide, or in other translations it says continue. We must continue in his word. So following the words of Jesus himself. One of the commentaries said this: what does it mean to abide or continue? It means welcoming it, being at home with it, and living with it so continuously that it becomes part of a believer's life, a permanent influence and stimulus in every fresh advance in goodness and holiness. We're called to abide. We've had some lovely gardeners. I think we've had 2 preachers in the last little while, just about how much time it takes to tend plants and leaves and all that kind of stuff. It's just us abiding. We can't strive for it. There's no striving for it, but there's a beautiful abiding that takes place. So if you want to be my disciple, you have to abide in his word. Second point is love Jesus supremely. Here's another one of those hard verses here. I'll read off the screen. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother, wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. We don't hear that one preached too much, okay? But in context, how this translates is relative to loving God, everything else has to be second. Now, I still find that extremely challenging, okay, if I'm honest, but that is the bar to which he calls us. In Matthew 22, teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and the first commandment. But then I got thinking about, well, how do you love like that? That sounds like it's beyond my capacity, my own natural capacity. We see people around us, we see our family, and you've got to put God kind of above that in relation to it. But we first have to receive his love first. We can't naturally start by trying to love God with everything, like mustering it up, like, I will be good, I will try this. We've got to start by first receiving his love, and then that becomes a natural response. So basically what I think Jesus invites us into is to get hit with his love. Like, you need to be knocked over and struck with his love, then that kind of supreme love follows after that. I've heard it said that spiritual growth is actually measured by love. Are we loving? Are we a people known by our love? Because that is, I think, what the world is crying out for. Just think of all the stories of people getting hit by Jesus' love. I came up with about just 4. Saul's conversion to Paul. He's got knocked. Okay? It was the loving thing for God to do. Knock him down. The woman at the well got knocked over that Jesus would cross ethnic barriers, gender barriers, and reach out. Even with her past, Jesus showed love. Think of Zacchaeus, the tax collector. Jesus went straight to him out of love. And we also thought of the woman caught in adultery. That is probably the greatest example of love. The law says this, what do you say? He's just like, I offer mercy first. That's what Jesus says, mercy first. I like wildlife photography. Every now and again, I get a good shot. This is not my shot, but it's probably one of my best photos I've ever seen in my life. Okay. That, my friends, I don't know if you've seen that photo before, but that is a silverback gorilla. And if you look closely, he's actually making a fist. Okay. So this photograph was taken in about 2019 by a French wildlife photographer before he got punched in the face. Okay. And it's a great shot. We've all seen that face before, the lips biting down. I'm not sure what circumstance you've seen an angry face like that, but that must have been absolutely terrifying. His name was Christophe Courteau, and this was his synopsis at the end. He said, in less than a second, he was on me and strongly hit me like a rugby player. It was like being hit by a train. So he sounds kind of semi-concussed as he said that as well. So he got hit in the face by a silverback gorilla. But luckily, we've actually got a few different angles of it. So here is someone else's photo. That's the gorilla right in front of his face. I'll give him kudos because he's focused. I mean, you should have dropped it by then, but he kept the camera. He got one shot to the face, and that's him falling over there. So the gorilla has literally just launched that guy. And he went from vertical, landscape to portrait straight away. It was beautiful. I think the gorilla knew he was French. I don't know how that happened. Talking about French rugby, just got to throw that in there. Okay, so we've got to be in a position where we have actually been struck over and knocked over by God's love. And we've got to do that constantly. The fireflies had to go back to the Creator all the time to get that kind of recharge. Okay, the third thing that we have to do, we've got to love other disciples. So I just finished Matthew 22, verse 37. Now 38 says, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. By this, in John 13 it says, by this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Each of you probably know people who maybe exemplify this maybe better than others. They are awesome to be around because all you get is just love the whole time. And that's where I would love to get my life to, where there's just, people just know, oh, Garth, he's very loving. He's very loving. In some religions, the highest peak you can get to is being more isolated. You've got to like remove yourself to try and get away from evil people, and then you can kind of be kind of pure. But Jesus kind of flips that. He's like, yeah, you must be alone with the Father, but you need to be with people. You see, you can't love God without loving others. They are the same side of a spinning coin. I think sometimes I'm really focusing on God right now, but people are just distractions to me. Or we can be sheepers. I'm really focusing on loving everyone to the best of my ability, but if I'm not getting that source from God, we get stuck in the middle. But when Jesus was asked what's the greatest commandment, he kind of gives two. And he says that the second is very much like the first. So are we being a people that are known by our love of one another? That would be such a testament. It's also why I like maybe referencing myself as a disciple of Jesus. Otherwise, you kind of paint this picture of Christians being so fractionated, and that your main point of identity is what differentiates you from other Christians, which is a bit backwards. He's like, love other disciples. It's pretty simple. It doesn't really matter what tribe you're in. If you're falling under the realm of Christianity, love everyone. It's very, 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 very important for us. Fourth thing I wanted to speak of is bearing much fruit. John 15 verse 8 says, by this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples. Yes, fruit is seasonal. We know that. We're not held to a standard of perfection here. But if you think about it, fruit isn't really for the tree. I mean, it kind of is, because that's the next generation. But if you look in nature with fruit trees, if you grow some fruit trees, you have to protect them from some certain types of animals that want to eat the fruit. Okay, so the fruit is actually there. God intended it that fruit would be so appealing that they would go and eat it and then spread it. Like that's the whole point of fruit. And when we think of fruit, we think of Galatians: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. It's not the fruits of the Spirit. It's a fruit. So you either got it or you don't. It's like not like, yes, I'm very loving and joyful today, but jeepers, I have no self-control. Like it's not a process. Like the fruit grows, but all kind of grows together. I'm not saying it's not necessarily linear, but what I'm saying is that are we known for people who demonstrate those 9 qualities? It would be, you would have people following after us if we can get that right. We really, really would. Bearing much fruit for the benefit of others to spread the kingdom. Point number 5 is love others selflessly. Jesus modeled all of these, but he modeled this one very, very well. In Mark 9, verse 35, it says, if anyone wants to be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. So the way of the world is pretty much success equals significance. The higher you are, the more successful you are, therefore the more social status you have. That's pretty much the way of the world. What's the job title? What's the car? What's your dress? All those kinds of things. What clothes you wear? All that kind of stuff is worldly success. But in God's kingdom, it's actually about service. Service is success. That's why I love just all the people who are helping out here, running around, doing all the stuff on a Sunday, all the stuff during the week, putting the cameras up, Jochen and Chris getting the slideshow working, and people who set this all up. All this is a part of service, and it needs to be exploded onto other people during the week. And the energy from that will come from Jesus. The energy for that will come from Jesus. This time of year, most of us are like, I just need that. You're looking after you're looking at that 16th public holiday, you're going, I just got to make it to that. I'm just going to creep. Once I get there, I can take a breath. And there's elements of truth there, but Jesus, he's not wanting us to live like that. He's wanting us to have energy for service, which comes from him, and that is true success. Love others selflessly. Final point. Point number 6, a disciple is someone who wants to pass on the good news. This is someone that's maybe the most challenging for us. You know, this is Greg's job. This is Naaman's job. It's not my job yet. I haven't quite got to that level where I can kind of share the gospel. But what a disciple does is they share good news. If you were, you know, if you found good news, you would want to share it. So that for me is quite a deep one, actually, because I'm like, do I actually believe that I found good news? If you found a cure for something, it's going to come out pretty quickly, okay? So in Matthew 28, Jesus says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all I have commanded you." This is what disciples do. They share the good news. It's not a special type of Christian. We're not having a meeting later where we hand out 3 striped Christians and only they are allowed to hand out the good news. This is something that once you've got a free gift, you can give it away pretty quickly. There is a process by which we mature, but passing on the good news is not necessarily linked to that maturity. It can be done straight away. It really can. That's probably the easiest one to demonstrate straight away, if you think about it. You place your life in, you trust your life into Jesus' hands, and then straight away you like, I've had a change. I've been hit by love. If you get hit in the face by a gorilla, you are changed. Okay, you are changed. How so much more when Jesus hits you with His love? So we want to be a people that pass on the good news.